Well, gonna be doing something a little bit different now. I've been going around on Netflix and I've been checking out, movies that a lot of people would normally pass on, movies that people would consider to be rather blah, or one of those things where, oh, look at that cover, that's clearly gonna be cheesy as heck. I'm not touching that. And I've been doing some looking into some of these films and looking into their history and everything, and I figure, well, if they're interesting enough or what have you, I might, do a review on these movies at some point, and so I I'm gonna be doing that. I found one from not too long ago that, to be perfectly honest, is something that I actually was excited for when I first saw the trailer for it, and I really, really wanted to see it, and because it's something that's actually not done too often anymore, and I really do like the concept of it, and I really wish it hadn't died off, but you know, what have you. And anyways, moving on. It's a horror anthology film called Scary or Die. Now, when I had first heard of this, I honestly didn't know what it was about, or first heard the title, because I had forgotten the title of the movie that trailer was for. It had been quite a while. I had heard nothing else about it. And to be perfectly blunt, the cover does kind of dissuade you from checking it out. And so does the description. The description, a lot of times doesn't actually mention this. Excuse me. Doesn't mention that it's an anthology. And I think maybe some descriptions do on some versions of it, but like the version I saw in the video store did not make it clear that it was an anthology. In fact, it almost tried to make it seem like it was one of those movies where it's not an anthology, it's this thing where all these seemingly unrelated events wind up coming together in the end, which usually tank. But this wasn't, no. This was an anthology series, and there is an overall thing, tying them together, but it's not quite so interwoven as the initial description wouldn't have you believe. Um, Now, what that means is you have five short films in this one movie, directed by different people. I believe, though, the interesting thing about this is that there's only three people who directed these five shorts. So two of them, I believe, pulled double duty, and one of them just directed the second one, I believe. Um, okay, I should probably just give you a real quick rundown of all the different shorts. The first one is honestly, it's the worst of the bunch, and I think that's one problem this movie's gonna have. Is it's extremely generic, it's extremely stupid. All right. Long story short, you have these people in this pickup truck. They're heading down to the border. It's pretty clear these guys have an issue with Mexicans in general. But then when they get down there, they take this guy and this old man, and they're basically the girl thinks that they're trying to scare him. She actually didn't know they were in the truck at the time, but she figures that they're trying to scare him. But no, it turns out that the one guy actually wanted to kill them, and so he does execute them. Regardless of the fact that they're not actually illegal immigrants, which is what he's going on and on about, but they are actually registered citizens. No, they're not here on a visa either. They are citizens. The one guy is a legal citizen of the United States. So it's also at the same time trying to kind of do some sort of sociological political commentary, which in a horror short film, no, don't even try to do that. But it's so stupid. It is because they wind up killing the people and then they go to bury them in these shallow graves right there on the border. And for some bizarre reason, the dude who one of the dudes takes a whiz on their grave, and there's this thing in this jar, and I have no idea how. I think it's actually something that they bought at a store, In fact, I think it's supposed to be like guacamole. I don't even know. I forget what it's supposed to be, but um, they wind up spilling it into the grave. And all of a sudden, all these people that were murdered and buried on the border, which suggests that these guys have probably been doing this for a while, or that this isn't uncommon, or what have you, come back as zombies. So it really, really quickly devolves into a really lousy zombie story, where all the zombie stuff's like crammed into the last couple minutes, and it's got an ending that's like so stereotypical of zombie films. I mean, it's a trope that's been going on in them since the original Night of the Living Dead. And that should give you a clue as to what happens without too many spoilers. But it's just horrible overall. I really wouldn't recommend it. Second short was actually phenomenal. I think in terms of being a short, it's the best one. It could have been a little longer maybe, but it works really well. It's about a Chinese man, but no, it's not in China, but he's a Chinese guy, and he's pretty lovelorn and lonely and, what have you. And during one of his nightly commutes, a small series of events happens that leads him to accidentally stumble upon a scene where there's this woman and a man who's about to stab her. And so he intervenes, knocks the man out, rescues the woman, and she, appears to have become smitten with him and invites him to a party. Says it's very important that he be there, it'd be very important to her, she really wants him there, please come. And so he does come. And he shows up, and, this woman, she's like, I don't want to spoil it, but it's kind of a cautionary tale, but at the same time not. It's just, a genuine glum, gloomy, horror story. And it's actually, for what it is, very well done. You get attached to this character, and so you wind up feeling really bad for what happens and everything by the end. Very quickly. And it's an interesting little twist that they tossed in there as to what happened. It's not like anything phenomenal per se, but in terms of a low-budget short film, it's really good. I think it really is. The third short, now this is one that I really wish would have been like its own movie, or at least definitely longer, because it has so much promise and it is so weird and surreal. I just wish that they'd, it could carry itself as its own story, a lot longer version than it is. There's this guy who's a hitman, and I believe he's a hitman anyways, it certainly seems that way, who's hired to kill this guy. He kills him, dismembers him, puts his body parts in a duffel bag, sticks it in his trunk along with a note saying leave the money at the usual spot. So yeah, it definitely looks like a hit. But along the way, he hears a pounding in his trunk. And he swerves and everything off the road to avoid it. And, an officer pulls him over as a result, and he's like, he heard it the first time, and he pulls over, checks it, and everything's still in the duffel bag, the head, the body, all of it. So he drives along, hears it again, swerves off the road, police pull him over thinking maybe he's drunk. They hear the banging in the trunk, or what sounds like banging, and they ask him to pop the trunk, and he does, and he gets ready to pull out his gun because he figures, I might have to kill this guy if he finds that body in the trunk. But the officer, oddly enough, tells him, go ahead, sir, have a nice night. Which freaks him out, because that duffel bag full of body parts is back there. So why didn't the police do anything? So he gets out to check, and when he gets back there, the duffel bag's there, and the lumps are in it, but when he pushes on it, it goes flat. It's empty. So he unzips it and pulls out the note, and the note is slightly unfolded, and he picks it up, and written underneath what he had written on it in blood are the words, "You can't kill me." And it's also important to note that when he was butchering this guy, that he found out the guy had this weird, almost looked like a pentagram pendant. I'm not going to tell you what happens from there, because I think that it's really interesting, and I really think that this could definitely be expanded on, and I really hope that someone would expand on that idea. Um, but it was good. It was good. It just has the potential to be so much more. So I think that's why it also feels a little underwhelming, despite being good. The fourth short is by far the longest, and it's also the one featured on the cover. Um, it sounds so surreal and ridiculous, and to a degree it is, and they're kind of self-aware of that fact. But at the same time, they take a very tired trope and they kind of make it genuinely sad and dramatic. I think the weirdest thing about this short, though, is that the main character is played by Corbin Blue, and anyone who doesn't know the name right off the bat, um, he was in some Disney Channel movies, most notably the High School Musical series. Um, for the life of me, cannot remember his name, but he was the kid who was Troy's friend, had that weird, really bushy afro looking thing going on. Um, I'm sorry, it's just, yeah, I didn't really make it a point to memorize a whole lot of names from that franchise. But it's weird, you know. He's playing a very serious character. Um, well, comparatively, it's kind of surreal though because there's some things that they really don't go into that they kind of drop. Like, looks like he's actually selling drugs out of the back of his truck, car, what have you. And it's weird, you know. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like it's there, and this plot point exists, but then they kill it, and it's just gone. So I don't know why that was there. Um, there's a couple things in this short that really are weak points. There's also an unnecessary pregnancy subplot at some point, but we'll get into that later. This dude, it's established, he loves his brother. He really cares about his little brother. And one day when they're at the beach, his little brother's ball goes under the marina. And so he goes in there trying to find it and hears this weird sound and sees something in the dark, and he calls out to it because that's also the source of the crying. And he's like, hey, I'm just trying to find my ball. And whatever it is turns and looks at him, and he gets really scared and bolts out of there. But anyways, the next day at their house, he walks in the room, and there's a clown in their kitchen raiding their fridge. And he gets pissed and tells the thing to leave. And it is so weird, too, because you're hearing this Disney Channel star dropping these F-bombs. It is surreal. But, but when you get beyond the novelty of that and, you actually focus on it, so he tosses the clown out, and the clown basically gets really angry, jumps him, knocks him to the ground, and freaking chomps right into his leg. And has these really sharp teeth that you only see for like a couple seconds, and leaves this really nasty looking bite in his leg. And from there, it gets a little weird. He actually almost turns into like a sort of vampire slash zombie slash were clown, or starts to, and it's so weird. These clowns have this like craving for flesh and whatnot. It's not really explained where they come from or why this is, which I think is another slight shortcoming of it. But it's also really good at the same time because they actually kind of make you feel sorry for this guy. And even though it's kind of a very ridiculous sounding ailment, it's played up very sad, very dramatic. He has to leave his family, has to leave his little brother because he's starting to actually crave to eat his little brother, who he swore he would die before he let anything happen to. Very sad, and at one point he actually has to rescue him from the very clown that bit him after he's mutating. And while he's sitting there trying to say, no, nothing bad's going to happen to you, whether he realizes it or not, he seems to almost start to go into a trance, and his hands start to close around his little brother's neck, like he's about to strangle him, and then he realizes After his little brother says, "Why am I?" He says, "Are you gonna hurt me?" "No, I'd never let anything happen to you." And then he says, "Then why am I so afraid of you?" And that snaps him out of it, and he tells him to run. It's just sad. It really is sad. You wind up feeling genuinely bad for him, and in order to try to escape what he's become, the ending is just so sad. It is. It's actually really sad. Not like, oh my god, tearjerker sad. It's just, you genuinely feel a little bit of sadness. It's not going to make you cry, but it's like, sad. And again, for a premise as seemingly ridiculous as this, that's not bad. But then they go ahead and ruin it with a completely unnecessary borderline comedic ending that's tacked on as an add-on, an afterthought, Really sad. It really is. It just kind of undermined it. If they hadn't had that in there, it would have been, a lot more impactful, I think. Then the final short is definitely the most dramatic. I think it's pretty short, but it doesn't really need to be too long. I think the biggest issue I have with it is some of the editing is a little weird, especially toward the end. But not bad at all. Not a bad way to end it either. And so yeah, that's Scary or Die. It's a concept that I haven't seen in a long time that I actually missed, so it was awesome to see that. The first short, oh my god, I really wish they hadn't put that one first, because on the one hand, maybe they figured they wanted to get it out of the way. Or, maybe, I don't know. I don't know why that one was first. It really would have hurt it no matter where they put it. If they put it in the middle, it would feel like the middle was dragging. If they put it in the end, it would have, ended with a sigh. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the first is the only place you really can put it. But, if you watch beyond that, it's actually pretty good. So on the overall ranking scale, oh man, it's hard because I want to judge each individually. The first short I'm gonna give like a 3 or 4 out of 10 maybe. Second one, 7 out of 10. Third one I will give a 6 out of 10. Fourth one, 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And the final one, yeah, also a 5. In fact, you know what? The first one, too generous. I'm going to drop that. It's like a 2 or a 3. It's just really that dull. It really is. It's ridiculously stupid. It's like watching a Sci-Fi Channel zombie movie crammed into about 5 minutes. It's that bad. Only without the, budget for the effects and gore. Like, seriously. They really cheat with the camera when it comes to these zombies. I'm not gonna lie. And they don't show up till like the tail end. So but overall, yeah, I'm gonna give the thing a 6 or 7. Very much like to see the premise again. Really wish that this would be revived, because it's how you can find a lot of directors or writers that have promise, and see them expand. Also nice to see these things no longer limited to like film festivals or what have you. That, if we could get these things going again, that would be awesome. It really would. I'm not saying that film festivals are a bad thing. It's just that so many films that wind up released at like film festivals never get a proper DVD release or Blu-ray release or what have you. They wind up, just lost circulatory films, and so unless you're lucky enough to find a film reel and the projector, or what have you, you're not going to see it. So I really hope that this makes a comeback. I do. And that's it for now, and I will catch you guys another time where I talk about a 1994 sci-fi horror film called Death Machine. Catch you then.